Welcome to another Friday live webinar, live session where you can find out more information about helping you succeed on the IELTS exam. And my name's Jeff, and I'm happy to be with you today to share some more insights into the IELTS exam. So whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, whether you're watching live or on the replay, I do want to welcome you, and I want to let you know that as you're watching, if you have a question that comes up, just please place it in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer it as best I can to help you with anything that you need. I just want to mention a couple of things before we get started, and I want to just tell you a little bit about my YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube or you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, I would encourage you to do so. Just this past week, I passed a little milestone when it comes to my YouTube channel, and that is that I now have over 100 videos with IELTS lessons, different lessons about everything you can imagine that you would need to know about the IELTS exam. There are videos for every different question type in the listening section and the reading section. There are different types of questions for writing task 1 in the IELTS academic exam, and lots of tutorials for writing task 2 in both academic and general. And that's something I just want to mention as you start. If you're here today, it's probably because you noticed that I'll be talking about how to do writing task 2 for the general IELTS exam. So if that's your goal, you're in the right place. But I do want to tell you a couple of things about the differences and the similarities between the general IELTS exam and the academic IELTS exam. And the writing task 2 is an example of where it's the same task for academic and general. So if you're here for the general, you're definitely going to hear what you need. But if you're also taking the academic exam, this video is for you too, because writing task 2 for both exams is the same. The listening section for both exams is exactly the same. The speaking section for both exams is exactly the same. Now, there are some differences in the reading section. In the reading section for the academic, you're asked to look at more academic and longer articles where you'll answer questions. And in the general test, you'll be looking at articles from magazines or different publications that will not be as long and detailed as the ones in the academic. And in writing task 1 for the general exam, you're asked to write a letter or an email. And in writing task 2 for general and academic, it's the same task. So if you're taking the general IELTS exam and you're looking for help with the listening section, you can watch any of the videos on my YouTube channel. If you're looking for help with the speaking section, there are demonstration videos and strategy videos for the speaking section, which will help both academic and general students. And this lesson today about writing task 2 will help if you're writing general or academic. There is a video about writing task 1 for the general exam, and in the coming couple of weeks, I will be adding more videos on the reading section for the general exam. So that's something to look forward to, and a reason to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you'll receive notifications when those new videos arrive. So I've made it my mission to help people just like you get the score you need on the IELTS exam. So I would encourage you to join me every Friday for these live sessions. and encourage you to check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel or to join the Facebook group, IELTS Summit Academy, if you haven't done that. All the links to do these things will be in the comments of the video. So we're going to get started, and we're going to look at writing task 2. Now, in writing task 2, there are 4 main criteria for getting the score that you need. The first is task achievement. And task achievement simply means that you answer the question you're given and you address the topic you're given. If you're asked to give your opinion, you give your opinion, or if you agree or disagree. Whatever task you're given, the things that I'm going to show you today will help you with that task. And the second thing that's very important is the structure of your essay. This is called coherence and cohesion, and that's what we're going to focus on today. And of course, the other 2 criteria you're being measured on are grammar and vocabulary, and that's true of every section of the IELTS exam. So today, I want to focus on what I think is the most important thing for getting the score you need. It goes without saying that you need good grammar and vocabulary, and you should have this with no problem if you have a high intermediate to advanced level of English, which is what you should have if you're thinking of writing the IELTS exam. So vocabulary and grammar goes without saying. Task achievement is important. It's worth 25% of your mark. But another thing that's worth 25% of your mark when it comes to the writing section is how you structure your essay. And this is something that you can improve with practice in a fairly short time, especially if you take the steps that I'm going to show you today. Learning English, grammar, and vocabulary is something that takes months and years to perfect. And again, you have to have that level to get the score you need on the IELTS exam. But when it comes to improving the fastest to get the score you need on writing, focusing on structure can be something that can be done in a matter of weeks rather than months or years. So this is probably, what I'm going to show you today is probably the fastest way to improve your writing for task 2. So let's get started with how to structure your essay. Okay. The thing that I want to share with you today, and this is something that I've developed, and I really think that it's a very simple strategy for writing task 2, and that is what I call the rule of 3. And I want to just give you a little analogy as we begin as to why the rule of 3 is so important and so helpful. And you can see I have a picture on my slide of a 3-legged stool. The one thing about a 3-legged stool is that it will never wobble. It will never be shaky. It doesn't matter if the legs are a little bit different length. It doesn't matter if the floor is uneven. The thing about having 3 legs is that that stool will always be solid. When you sit on that stool, it won't shake back and forth. It has a solid structure. And this is a good analogy for writing task 2, because when it comes to coherence and cohesion, the structure of your essay, you want to have a solid structure. Your essay doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to have everything perfect, but with a solid structure, it will improve your score and give you a better essay. You know, this isn't the same as if you have a ladder with only 2 legs. If you have a ladder with 2 legs, it can't stand alone. So you can't only use 2 good things in each part of your essay. You need to have 3. And it's not even true if you have 4, a 4-legged table. And I'm sure You've had the experience where you've sat down in a restaurant or at home with a four-legged table, and you go and you lean on the table and it wobbles a little bit. Maybe you spill your coffee. That's not true with a three-legged stool, because a table with four legs, everything has to be perfect and everything has to be absolutely in line, and otherwise it will wobble. So with the rule of three, by having this solid structure, it brings every other part of your essay into a good position for getting the score you need. So if you have a couple of minor mistakes in grammar or vocabulary, a good structure can make up for that, because you're sharing your opinion and sharing your insights and handling the task to the best of your ability. And I think that a solid structure is something where you will get the most marks to get the score you need on the IELTS exam. So what I want to do today is just explain step by step how you can create a really good essay using this rule of three. So let's start with the entire essay. The rule of three applies to your entire essay. You must have these three parts to your essay: an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Okay, you have to have a good introduction and a good conclusion. And then in the body of your essay is where you explain your opinion and your viewpoint. Okay, so if you have an essay with one of these parts missing, then you won't get the score you need. It's as simple as that. You need these three things. So every time you write an essay for writing task 2, make sure you have a good introduction and that the body of your essay is appropriate and you have a good conclusion. And I'm going to share how to do this in this lesson, so stay with me. Now let's talk about the body of your essay. The body of your essay will have 3 paragraphs. Okay, so we apply the rule of 3 to the body of your essay. Paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and paragraph 3. And I think this is the best structure to use for writing task 2, because it will give you a total of 5 paragraphs. You'll have your introduction, then you'll have 3 paragraphs in your body, and you'll have your conclusion. And one of the great things about having a 5-paragraph essay is it takes one worry completely away from your writing, and that is counting the words. Because in writing task 2, you have to write an essay of 250 words. And this may seem like an overwhelming task, and it may distract you while you're writing your essay on test day, trying to count the words to make sure you have too many. But with this rule of 3, having 5 total paragraphs and 3 paragraphs in your body, I guarantee you won't have any trouble reaching the 250 word limit. As a matter of fact, the greater danger will be that you write too much. So the rule of 3 will not only help you write enough, it'll also make sure that you don't write too much. And if you follow the tips I give you today, your essay will probably come in around 300 words at most, and you'll have no problem reaching the 250 word limit, and you won't be distracted by counting words on test day. So this is a very helpful approach to structuring your essay. So we have 3 parts to the essay: an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And then we have 3 parts to the body of the essay, 3 paragraphs. And then we take this rule of 3 one more step, and we apply it to each paragraph. Each paragraph in your essay will have 3 parts. It'll have a clear statement, and this is where you simply say, yes, I agree, or I disagree. or this is where you'll give a sentence about what your opinion is. The second thing that must be included in your paragraph is a good reason for your opinion. So you have your clear statement, and then you give a good reason for that statement. And then something that must be included in every IELTS writing task 2 is using an example from your own life and your own experience, a relevant example. This is a part of every writing task 2, and you'll see it in the instructions when you approach your writing task 2. So your paragraph has these 3 parts: a clear statement, a good reason, and a specific example. And it has no more than these 3 parts. You don't give 2 reasons for one statement. If you have 2 reasons, that means you can have a second paragraph. You don't give 2 separate examples for one paragraph, because if you have 2 examples, that can be the basis for another paragraph. And you don't have 2 statements for one paragraph. Your statement is like the topic of that paragraph, and a paragraph never has more than one topic. So in your paragraphs, make sure you include this clear statement, a good reason, and a specific example. So stay with me, because now I'm going to give you the step-by-step explanation and show you exactly how to put this rule of 3 into practice for your entire essay, your introduction and conclusion, and the body paragraphs of your essay. So just one more overview, the rule of 3, you have your introduction, your body, and your conclusion in your essay. You have 3 body paragraphs, and each body paragraph has a clear statement, a good reason, and a specific example. So when it comes to test day, in writing task 2, you're shown a prompt, something like this. Students are becoming more and more reliant on the internet. While the internet is convenient, it has many negative effects, and its use for educational purposes should be restricted. How far do you agree with this statement? So as you approach this, you're given 40 minutes for writing task 2. And on test day, I suggest that you do writing task 2 before you do writing task 1, whether it's for general or academic, because writing task 2 is more involved. It requires a little bit more creativity and a little more energy. And on test day, the writing section is the last section you're going to be doing. So this comes after you've already done almost 2 hours of sitting in the examination room. So you may want to use the most energy you have left for the more prominent task of writing task 2. And then you use your last 20 minutes to achieve writing task 1. And again, if you're writing the general exam and you'd like some information and a lesson on writing task 1, you can find that on my YouTube channel. So we have this task, and we have 40 minutes to write a 250-word essay. So what do we do first? Where do we begin? The first place we begin is taking 8 to 10 minutes of that 40 minutes to just plan your essay. And by planning your essay, you'll make sure you have the right structure and you know exactly what you're going to put in your essay before you start writing. And if you take this 8 to 10 minutes to plan and structure your essay before you start writing, you'll write a much better essay in 30 minutes than you would in 40 minutes if you overlook this important step. So the most important thing is to spend the first 8 to 10 minutes preparing and planning and structuring your essay. So how do we do that? On test day, you'll be given some note paper to write notes and to make an outline for your essay. You'll be given some extra paper. So on the first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw a diagram on your paper, which will help you simply make a really good outline and have a perfectly structured essay. And it's a simple diagram. Maybe if you play tic-tac-toe, you're familiar with this diagram, but this is the diagram that we use for structuring and planning the essay. It's simple, but it perfectly applies to the rule of three. Because first of all, this diagram has 3 rows, and these 3 rows represent each paragraph in the body of your essay. So you have row 1 for paragraph 1, row 2 for paragraph 2, and row 3 for paragraph 3. And then this diagram also has 3 columns. Each column represents the 3 parts of your paragraph. So the first column with the first set of squares represents what you're going to state, your clear statement in your for each paragraph of your essay. And then the middle column is where you have a place to put in a good reason for each paragraph to match the statement. And then the third column is where you put in and plan an example for each paragraph. So this diagram is not only going to make sure that you structure your essay perfectly, it's also a way of using it as a way to generate ideas and to brainstorm, because it doesn't matter what order you fill these squares in. If you think of 3 statements before you think of reasons for them, you can write the 3 statements in the first column. If you think of 3 good reasons before you think of examples, you can write in 3 good reasons before you even put in the statements. You can put in your examples before you think of a reason. It doesn't matter what order you fill in these squares, but you want to fill in each square so that you have a statement, a reason, and an example for each of the 3 paragraphs before you start writing. And in these squares, you're not going to write long sentences. You're just putting your ideas, 2 or 3 words that will make sure you know exactly what you're going to put into your essay, because you can't start writing until you have your 3 body paragraphs planned. You can't write an introduction and say what's going to be in your essay until you know what's going to be in your essay. So even before you think about writing an introduction, you want to make sure you know exactly what's going in to the body of your paragraph. And you'll see in more detail in just a moment what I mean by this. So we think of our task, we think of our prompt and the topic of our essay, and this is what we want to address as we plan our essay. So as I look at my diagram, I'm going to think about my first paragraph. And in my opinion, the internet is essential in schools. So that's the topic of my first paragraph. That's the statement that I'm going to begin my paragraph with. And I'm going to just put in there, it's essential in schools. That's what I'm going to write in the first paragraph of my body. Then my reason for this is because I think it's the best source of information for studying. So I just put best info. That's enough to let me know what I'm going to write for my reason in this paragraph. And then the example I'm going to use is me as a student when I was in university. So now I know exactly what's going into my first paragraph, and I can start thinking about my second paragraph. I also think, in my opinion, that the internet could be dangerous. So maybe in my question, it was asking me if we should limit. Well, maybe because it's it could be dangerous. So that's going to be the topic of my second paragraph. And then my reason that it could be dangerous is that it's often the source of false information. And my example for that is going to be YouTube, because YouTube has a lot of great information. For example, did I mention my YouTube channel? If you're looking for good information about the IELTS exam. So there are good things on YouTube, but there's a lot of false information. There are a lot of things on YouTube that do not provide accurate or good, healthy information. So I'm going to use YouTube as my example. It's very specific and it's a good example to use. So now I know exactly what's going into my second paragraph. And then I'm going to kind of share my opinion that the important thing is to balance the good things with the bad, because I mentioned good things in paragraph 1. I mentioned bad things in paragraph 2, and in my third paragraph, I'm going to bring the two together, and I'm just going to say it's important to learn to balance the good and the bad in the internet, because you have to discern between the best information and false information. And the example is that I learned this from my parents and my teachers, the ability to discern between good and bad, false and true. And this is what I'm going to put in this paragraph. These examples are going to be easy to write because I've made them very specific and very personal. And one of the strongest examples you can use in writing task 2 in both the general exam and the academic exam, even though the academic IELTS exam is called academic, it's not academic. It's only because you're using the IELTS exam for academic purposes to get into university or to find a job. The general IELTS exam is more used for immigration and permanent residence. But the writing task 2 does not have to be formal or academic. It can be very personal. And the more personal and specific your examples, the better and the easier they are to write, because you're writing from your own experience. But anyways, now I know exactly what's going into my essay, and now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to write my introduction. But before I do that, let's just take a look at the top row: essential in schools, best information, and me as a student. So here's the paragraph, how that paragraph, just to give you an example of how that paragraph would look. One place the internet is essential is in schools. Very simple sentence. It's the best source of information for studies and research as long as it's used properly. That's my good reason. And then I give my example. As a student, I had to learn to find the most reliable sources of information. For me, there was nowhere the internet was more important than in my time at school. Now, this is a good paragraph, and it will get me the score I need because it's perfectly structured. You can clearly see and identify a statement, a reason, and an example. And just one little tip about grammar and vocabulary. I used a simple sentence. I used a compound sentence. But most of all, I used the vocabulary and grammar that I'm most confident with. And I'm sure as you look at this, you'll find that there is no complicated or fancy academic vocabulary. I didn't memorize an academic word list before I wrote this. I didn't memorize special phrases or words for this paragraph. I used my own words. And I want to encourage you when you are writing, when it comes to, this is just another tip for grammar and vocabulary. If you have a high, intermediate, and advanced level of English, the level you need for the IELTS exam, you have enough vocabulary. You know enough grammar. Just use the vocabulary that you feel most confident and comfortable using. And if it's put in the context of a great structure and you're achieving the task, you will get the score you need in writing task 2. So let's start talking about the introduction and the conclusion and the purpose of the introduction and conclusion and how they fit into your essay. Think of it this way. The introduction is a preview of your essay. The body, the 3 paragraphs of your body, are where you express your view. So if you express your view in the body, your opinion, the introduction is a preview. And then the conclusion is simply a review. And if you just think of it this way, this will help you to think of how the overall purpose of the introduction and conclusion work and how it fits in the structure of your essay. So let's use the rule of 3 when it comes to our introduction. You really only have to have 3 things in your introduction, and no more and no less. 1, give the topic of your essay. And this can simply be done by rephrasing or paraphrasing the prompt that you're given and putting it into your own words. Then 2, you give a summary of your essay. And this is where you give 1-2 sentences at the most about the 3 things that are going to be in the body of your paragraph. And then number 3, you give your overall opinion when it comes to the essay. So let's see how this looks. So first of all, my topic in my introduction: among students, the use of internet has been increasing in a variety of ways. Some feel it is having a negative impact and that students' access to it should be limited. All I've done is I've taken the prompt that I was given and put it into my own words, and this is the topic sentence for my essay. And then I'm going to add a little summary of what I'm going to do in this essay. And it's as simple as this. In this essay, I will discuss both views. While it's necessary for studies, it can also be dangerous and then must be closely monitored. So this is basically what I'm going to say in my whole essay, and I put it in 1 sentence. It could be in 2 sentences, but no more. And so this is the second part of my introduction. And then I'm going to give my overall opinion. In my opinion, the benefit of learning to use the internet wisely outweighs the risk that improper use provides. So now, if I put these all together, I have my introduction. And it was very simple. And it was very simple to do because I knew exactly what I was going to put in the body of my essay. I knew the content of the body of how I was going to share my opinion, and this is what made it possible to write an effective and good introduction. Now the conclusion. Again, we use the rule of 3 to talk about our conclusion. So I'm going to restate my overall opinion. I'm going to re-summarize the essay and include the topic. So you can see that what I kind of did was turn the introduction upside down. It has the same components of the introduction. I would suggest that it doesn't have to be as long. You're simply wrapping up and reviewing what you've written in your essay. So let's put these 3 parts together. And this is what a conclusion paragraph may look like. In conclusion, I have shown that a student's ability to balance the positive side of the internet with the negative will reap great benefits. It's essential for students to have appropriate access to complete their studies. Learning to do this will be an important skill for all their future endeavors. Okay, so what I've done is I've given you an example. I haven't written the entire essay. I've shown you 1 paragraph from the body, the introduction, and the conclusion. But the most important thing is to apply this rule of three to your entire essay. There's three parts to your essay: introduction, body, and conclusion. The body of your essay has three parts, three paragraphs. Each paragraph has three parts: a statement, a good reason, and a specific example. Your introduction has three parts: the topic, a summary of your essay, and your opinion. And the conclusion also has the same three parts. If you follow this rule of three, remembering that structure is worth 25% of your overall score. And by having a good structure will also make sure that you stay on task. And that's another 25%. Before you even get to assessing your grammar and vocabulary, by just doing what you're asked to do and having this really good structure, you will have accomplished 50% of what is being looked for when it comes to writing task 2. I hope you found this helpful. There are other videos on my YouTube channel about writing task 2. There's another video for general writing task 1 if you're writing the general exam. I hope you found this helpful, and I want to wish you all the best as you continue to prepare for the IELTS exam. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about lessons, group lessons, individual lessons, or more questions about the IELTS exam. I'm here to help. That's what I've set my mission to be, and I do want to help you as best I can. So all the best, and I look forward to seeing you in another session next week.